This show is brought to you by the Chiropractic Broadcast Network. Check us out on the web at chiropracticbroadcastnetwork.com. And hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Tuning Into Health. My name is Dr. Chad Rohlfsen, and this is episode 176 on March 5th, 2012. And I hope you're doing well in a world gone mad. Yes, mad, I say. Oh my gosh, I can't believe the uproar over the Sandra Fluke thing. We'll be commenting on that today, as well as medical bills can wreck your credit, even when paid off. When doctors don't tell the truth, that's not good. It comes from the New York Times. Cocoa may enhance skeletal muscle function. Another reason to eat chocolate. Drugs. New does not always mean better. And that comes from Science Daily. New means more profit. Suck it up, kid. Many docs ignore infant pain. From MSNBC. Whooping cough. Vaccination rules change in Illinois because the damn thing doesn't work. And they're scrambling. How can sunscreen cause Alzheimer's? Well, you better tune in and wait. And quackery disguised as a science harming the Eunice in Australia, which is kind of an interesting article because they use iridology to describe chiropractic, which I have no idea. I never learned about that in school. So anyway, we got lots of stuff today. I tell you what, I don't even know where to start with this Sandra Fluke thing, because I could tell you one thing. I would not be proud of my daughter going in front of Congress and saying that she's having so much sex that she can't afford it. People are going nuts over this. And people who don't listen to people like Rush Limbaugh are rushing to judgment. So that and more after this. Back again. Thanks for tuning in. I've got to kind of unload here a little bit, folks, because this has been the craziest week or weekend in a long time. And there's a how would you say, a coordinated effort to get a popular radio show talk host off the air and to silence him. Like that will ever happen. The guy makes $800 million in an 8-year contract without advertising. Okay, advertising is just the cherry on top. Let's put it when it comes to this guy's pull and this guy's power, which is great. And people are talking about Rush Limbaugh like he's like a hate monger. And tell you what, I've been a Rush 24/7 subscriber for the past 6 years. And I tell you what, I can't even think to myself, what is this guy hating about? He's never hated in the fact that what he says on the radio. He's not a hater. He is absurd, and sometimes, like today or like last week, he went a little too far and used the word slut, which, you know what, in this whole circumstance, I know I wouldn't be proud of my daughter going in front of Congress and saying that she's having so much sex that she can't afford it. And then when you break it all down, what birth control costs. Birth control, she says she's spending $1,000 a year. Birth control doesn't spend, you're not spending that with birth control when you add it all up. 5 condoms a day used for 365 days a year. That will cost you $900. So she's having a lot of sex. And where are her partners? Where are their duties here? What should they be paying for as well? So somebody's lying, and I'm not sure. And so now women's groups and all this type of stuff are going after Rush Limbaugh to, go after his advertisers. Like that, really worked with Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck is still number 2 on the radio, and he's now building a TV empire. So all by himself, and he's doing better than ever. So, and Glenn Beck is not a hater either. I would not, and people are surprising me with the language that they're using, because they're using language like hater, and somebody who has religious values or holds strong to fidelity and whatnot. Somehow now they're haters, and what people don't understand is they'll react because they don't listen to Rush and they don't really understand that he illustrates the absurd by being absurd. And that's what gets the press, and it gets all the people riled up, is the press accounts of what he says. But when you listen to the guy and you listen to where he's coming from and the angle that he's taking, he makes total sense. So people that are jumping on the bandwagon saying that he's a hater and they don't listen to him. And so they're usually speaking from an uninformed stance, which is my general take on it all. Which I tell you what, let's discuss this. When it comes to putting the government in charge of your birth control, okay, now you got a third party in charge of your uterus. You really want a third party in charge of your uterus, even if the government included? I tell you what, if the government starts paying for contraception, or if insurance is forced to now pay for contraception, which it's not a disease, by the way. Pregnancy is not a disease the last time I checked, right? If you want the government or a third party to start paying for your contraception, watch the cost of contraception skyrocket. Absolutely skyrocket. It's happened with medical care. It's happened with dental care. It's happened with chiropractic. You can't go anywhere without, you can go lots of different places that opt out of the third-party system and get affordable chiropractic care. But I tell you what, there's places that you can go in and you won't get out of the office without a $100 bill, just for a simple adjustment. And then guess what happens? If the insurance company refuses to pay that bill, guess what? That's all on you. They can't charge a dual rate. So what you're charged is what you're charged. But the same thing that's happened with the healthcare industry, I hate even calling it that, the crisis or emergency care. That's why a Band-Aid costs $76, right? Is because a third party is paying for it. You're not paying out of pocket for it, so who cares? Unless your insurance refuses to pay for it. So that's what will happen to contraception once the third party gets their grubby little hands into it. And that includes government, because government's worse. I mean, the only reason why the cost of health care has skyrocketed so much is because people like Medicare, or agencies like Medicare, will say, okay, your fee is this, but we're going to charge you 19% of that, or we're going to charge you 20% or maybe 25% of that original cost because we're sending more people to you, right? Bull crap. And so what ends up happening is the doctors say, well, screw that. I'm going to raise my rates way up here until, nobody can afford it, but only Medicare people can afford it. And then they get reimbursed a percentage, which is back to where their normal range was. So that's the insurance game, folks. And that's why I got out of it. Because you know what? Care was getting unaffordable to people. And there's something that I hated when the third party would pit me, my office, against the patient. And that's what would happen more often than not with healthcare insurers and with Medicare. And I said, screw you, folks. I can provide reasonable care at a fair price, or excellent care at a fair price. So we'll put it that way. So anyway, here right off the top, medical bills can wreck your credit even when paid off. Mike and Laura Park thought their credit record was spotless. The Texas couple wanted to take advantage of the new low interest rates, so they put their house on the market and talked to a lender about mortgage on a bigger home in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And, well, what ended up happening was their credit report contained a shocker. A $200 medical bill had been sent to a collection agency. Although since paid, it still lowered their credit scores by 100 points, and it means they'll have to pay a discount point to get their best interest rate to cost them $2,500. A growing number of Americans could encounter similar landmines when they refinance or take out a loan. So basically, when you pay it off, doesn't matter. You got that ding on your credit report, and that really sucks, folks. It really does. Speaking from experience here, we got medical bills just for one episode. My wife had a bout of pneumonia, spent 5 days in the hospital. Well, we got medical bills from 9 different people. We thought the insurance would pay for it. Oh, no, not all. Not all. And she's a nurse, and she gets pretty good insurance. But I tell you what, it was just amazing. We had 9 medical bills coming in and from one place. That's another thing. 7 of those bills were from one place, and that was the place that she worked. But there were 7 different bills that came in, and that was a little tricky to manage and a little tricky to coordinate. So, so we got this call one day, and it says, well, how come you aren't paying this bill? We're like, wait a second, we just paid, how many thousands of dollars? Oh, no, that was for this department. This is for this department. So, you know what? They can wreck your credit even when paid off. And if you want that third-party mentality into your uterus, well, I guess you get what you deserve, right? When doctors don't tell the truth, this comes from the New York Times. Every spring, a former patient and his elderly patients would drive 2 hours to the hospital carrying chocolates for the staff. The Epicurean celebration of the man's successful liver transplant a few years earlier. The patient, tall in his 30s and with sandy blonde hair, handed out the boxes to his parents, and they, with their parched earth faces, beaming with joy, shook everyone's hand. But each time the parents came over to me, there seemed to be a moment of hesitation. On the night of their son's transplant, I was a doctor who relayed the grim details of their son's state. As they lay in intensive care waiting for the organ, I described to them in his deep coma, his complete dependence on breathing machine, his blood, which had become as thin as water, and the need for such high doses of intravenous infusion to support his blood pressure, and that we couldn't do the operation soon. It would be impossible to move him even a few hundred feet to the operating room for a life-saving transplant. So, evidently, this is an article. There's a lot of fluff leading to the gist of the article. Sorry about that, folks. Hey, chocolate, cocoa may enhance skeletal muscle function. Small clinical trial led by researchers at the University of San Diego School of Medicine in Virginia, VA San Diego healthcare systems found that the patients with advanced heart failure and type 2 diabetes showed improved mitochondrial structure after 3 months of treatment with the enriched cocoa, which is a flavonoid found in dark chocolate. So that's a good thing. Anyway, any reason to eat good chocolate, right? Drugs. New does not always mean better. This comes from Science Daily. Cases in which the newly approved drug is more effective than the cheaper alternatives already available are exceptions rather than the rule. This is the conclusion reached by a study in the current issue of a Dutch medical journal. Researchers into 39 proprietary medicinal products launched on the German market in 2009-2010 shows that there were frequently insufficient data available on the efficacy of the approved was granted. The legal requirements for licensing procedure have not yet required direct data comparing the new drugs to a commercially available drug. Researchers' evaluation also showed that for around half of the approvals, the only trials presented compared the new drug with a placebo, not an effective competitor drug. So, interesting. Yeah, it makes you wonder because they're all freaking about the generics and all that type of stuff, and they want to keep the drug prices high, and so they introduce these new drugs, and the new drugs don't necessarily perform better than the old drugs. Oh, well. Hey, there's an interesting story about a hospital that is being sued for the wrong diagnosis. So we'll check that out right after this.
When you're looking for a new home, why not seek the counsel of friends who happen to know the housing market better than all the rest? Mike and Holly Taylor with Iowa Realty can answer all questions related to securing a mortgage and provide valuable information that is important to your family. Mike and Holly will provide you with a detailed summary of area schools, nearby amenities, and all the testimonials from the people that they have served. Call Mike or Holly at 453-6011. That's 453-6011 to start looking for your new home today. And you are tuning into Health with Dr. Chad.
Okay, we is back. There's a hospital being sued for a wrong diagnosis, and it's from ABC News. I thought you might find it a little interesting. Yeah, all I can do is just introduce the video to you. There you go.
As a professor of biomedical ethics, Patricia Backlar believes curiosity is a good thing. Genetic testing is helpful.
If they want to have prenatal testing, it means they have some worries, or the clinician has some worries.
Philosophy
you want to
department.
make sure that you're prepared as well as you can be in case something is awry.
But she says, like in anything, errors happen.
And not doing harm is of great importance to most clinicians, because that's why they have gone into the profession.
But the parents in the malpractice suit against the legacy health system claim the doctors didn't just make a mistake. They were negligent in their performance analysis and reporting of the test results. That after doctors repeatedly advised them the test definitely ruled out Down syndrome, the parents chose, based on those results, to continue the pregnancy.
The parents in this trial going on upstairs are suing Legacy Health for $7 million. That's how much they say this child will cost them in medical, therapeutic, and social services.
The Northwest Down Syndrome Association says regardless of parents' final decisions, they usually deserve more information than they're getting now.
Wow. Okay, so this hospital went and they didn't perform the test correctly or whatnot, and evidently the parents didn't want a Down syndrome child, and so this is what they did: is they had this test done, and if it came back positive, they were going to abort the child. And if it came back negative, well, then, they're going to keep the child. Well, it ended up, the hospital screwed up, I think, some way, and it was actually born a Down syndrome child. And so these parents, suing the hospital. Errors like this do happen. Errors like that probably happen the other way too. What would happen if a child, if a test came back positive and the child was actually negative for Down syndrome? Both ways. So what I want you to realize is that the practice of medicine by no means is scientific a lot of times. It's by no means 100% scientific, and it's by no means 100% accurate. So then you come down into the moral questions about this whole thing. And is it moral to abort a child based on their genetic profile? I don't know. I personally, I don't think that it is moral to do that. So anyway. Hey, suck it up, kid. Many docs ignore infant pain. Wendy Fellner always nursed her baby daughter when she got her childhood immunizations, and the baby grew had grown into a 9-pound who's pretty fearless about shots. But Fellner, who lives in Winter Park, Florida, will never forget her first and last visit to the office of the new pediatrician she tried when her daughter was 4 months old. The nurse told her it was against the practice policy to allow moms to breastfeed babies while they were getting the shots. Infants could choke on the breast milk if they started crying from the shot, don't you know? In fact, the nurse went on, and it was against policy for parents to even touch infants who were getting immunized. The liability issues, she told Fellner. What if the parent jumped when the baby screamed? Oh, my goodness. There's also another thing. When you breastfeed, it actually decreases the vaccine's effectiveness, they found out. Yeah, if you breastfeed, if you take Tylenol, if you give the baby Tylenol after you give the immunizations, it will cut down the thing. And I tell you what, there's new evidence here of the whooping cough vaccine never being really that effective. In fact, it only provides temporary effectiveness. So only about 2 to 3 years. So that means the child, when they're 4 years old, receives their last whooping cough vaccination. When they become 7 years old, they were never protected. Any 7-year-old was never protected against whooping cough. And you know what? They would get it later on in life. They would get it when they were adolescents. Or they get it while they're adults. And there would be a cough that they couldn't kick for 100 days. It's the 100-day cough in adolescents and adults, whooping cough is. So it's really kind of interesting. The children's vaccine rules are changing a bit in Illinois. So basically, starting in 2012-2013 school year, all students entering 6th and 8th grade have to show proof of getting their pertussis vaccine, because you wouldn't want to put those who got the vaccination at risk, right? Dumb. That's typically called a DTaP, or a DT vaccine, but there's a new DTaP vaccine, which is an acellular pertussis, stands for tetanus, diphtheria, and acellular pertussis. Kira Simon with the McLean County Health Department says kids are now required to get the DTaP pertussis vaccine, which is given to babies but may have worn off. Actually, it was given 3 or 4 times in childhood, which it's proving that the vaccine doesn't work. So mostly because it's so contagious, Illinois has had outbreaks recently in Chicago area, and now the state has taken a requirement to the state level. Parents are asked to check their child's vaccination records, blah, 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 blah. How can sunscreen cause Alzheimer's? This comes from Mercola.com. Alzheimer's disease is currently in epidemic proportions, with 5.4 million Americans, including 1 in 8 people aged 65 and older, living with an Alzheimer's disease. According to the Alzheimer's Association, the Alzheimer's disease facts and figures, you know what? This is the epidemic. Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, ADHD, all this type of stuff is the epidemic. It's not pertussis. It just drives me nuts. So the Alzheimer's risk factor you probably haven't heard of. Do you heed the advice of public health officials who advise putting on sunscreen every time you go out in the sun? You could very well be raising the risk of Alzheimer's disease, because it blocks out not only your body's ability to produce vitamin D, but also your production of cholesterol sulfate. Ultimately, most of you reading this will probably have only heard of cholesterol referring on a negative way, but it actually is adequate cholesterol is essentially good for health. For example, 25% of the cholesterol in your body is for your brain, even though your brain is only 2% of your body's weight. The cholesterol is absolutely essential for neuron transport, which is the lack of cholesterol can negatively affect brain function. Wow! Could that offer another explanation for, Alzheimer's? Yeah, I think so. If you feed an unhealthy brain, if you were told that you had to lather sunscreen on your children every time they went out in the sun, was their brain prepared for adult life later on because you blocked all that good sunshine coming in. Quackery disguised as science harming Eunice. Pseudoscientific courses that are undermining the credibility of Australian universities, according to an editorial in the leading medical journal. Homeopathy, iridology, reflexology, kinesiology, healing touch therapy, aromatherapy, and energy medicine are offered more than a third of the nation's universities. Oh, see, now this kind of tricked me because it talked about chiropractic and it had iridology. Chiropractic is cited the area of particular concern, with the editorial warning that people that are in the field extending their role beyond the treatment of musculoskeletal problems related to the back. Some self-regulated chiropractors associated have been extreme vision that chiropractic should be the major primary care discipline. Blah, blah, blah. Well, I believe that everybody needs chiropractic care. But I tell you what, they're trying to say in here that chiropractic says it cures everything. And it's just not true. We've never claimed a cure. But we understand that a properly functioning nervous system, when it's basically regulates your body better. Okay? And when you're having a health challenge, your body can regulate better when you have a properly functioning nervous system. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? I'm trying to find an article for you. I can't find it right off the top. Hey, I tell you what, there is a website that I need you to go visit. It's called TanzaniaTheMovie.com. And the Quanini man, Venance Di Balema, is, my brother-in-law, and he is a quantum physicist and a philosopher who took a friendship journey with one of his good friends, and they spent 3 months in Africa. And I'll show you the website here in just a bit, but I just found it. So, an ounce of chiropractic. So have you ever heard that saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure? There's a saying that goes, an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. From a financial standpoint, nothing could be more true when it comes to using chiropractic care. A 2005 study published in the GMPT found for low back pain and neck pain, the inclusion of chiropractic benefits resulted in a reduction of rates of surgery, advanced imaging, inpatient care, and x-rays. That means less unnecessary testing, less hospitalization, fewer operations when chiropractic is made available. The scales clearly tip in our favor. When you keep your nervous system clear and give your body a chance to heal itself, you end up saving tons of time, money, and aggravation. Chiropractors know it. Our patients know it, and we're just waiting for the rest of the world to catch on. So it's very true, very true. If you can get a better coordination between your brain and your body, guess what? Your body's going to work better. Why is that so tough? Why is that so tough? Hey, look at this webpage. This webpage is very cool. The music behind it, he's got a whole soundtrack on it and everything. Oh, yeah. This is about two friends that go to Tanzania. One who came from Tanzania, studied in America, and his focus in life has changed because of that. And then about a girl who was totally brought up in the American culture and had no idea. So it's a transformational movie. You're going to see some amazing things, and some amazing things have happened because of it, including some life-saving things that have happened with Malika for life. So it's a cool website, though, folks. That's Venance. You can view the trailer here. It's TanzaniaTheMovie.com. I'll have the link provided below. It's won many, many different film festivals for Best Documentary, Best Worldwide Showcase. He's done a really great job. I really am proud of him for this. So, yep. And he's got something new coming up. It's called Quanini, which Quanini is the African word for why. And he's got something new coming up. He's got a book coming out. He's got children's books coming out. And Venance, hats off to you, brother, because you have made a huge difference. Okay, folks, that's the show for today. I hope that you had a wonderful time. The Sandra Fluke thing, take it for what you will. It's craziness. It's more of an attempt to do what it's doing right now, and that's to get people like Rush Limbaugh off the air. Yeah, right. I tell you what, those advertisers that left Rush from a whole bunch of uninformed nonsense that's being said about him, I say boycott those different businesses. But hey, this is 23 years that he's been on the air, and he's had this controversy before, so it won't take hold this time as it wasn't last time. So on that note, I want you to have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.